I texted you 2 hours ago. I'll meet you anywhere you want me to meet, but my mind's made up. Liz, my mind's made up. Regardless, my mind is made up, okay?
Little Ed is in Ed mode. The man's a total narcissist, and it's all about him. Who cares what Liz wants? Who cares what she's given up for him? Who cares about her kid? In Ed's world, it's all me, me, me.
You know, you think you have your whole life ahead of you, and you don't. At my age, you realize that life is short, and I just can't marry Liz.
And what Pred wants right now is to just pretend that this relationship never happened. But before we get into his disgusting behaviour, let's start at the beginning. So, the last we saw them, Ed had just cancelled his wedding without telling Liz after a huge fight over spicy taco pasta. Yeah, taco pasta is all it took for the love that Ed supposedly had for Liz to just crumble. And that says a lot, doesn't it?
The taco pasta argument, or it wasn't even an argument, it was her screaming at me. It let me know to my core that this was never going to work.
Now, no camera crew was present when the argument happened, so it's hard to say whether Ed's or Liz's version is more accurate. However, what I think is very significant is that Ed's biggest issue about the argument seems to be that Liz supposedly humiliated him in front of his sister. And as a result, just like that, a switch has suddenly flicked in his brain and he's now devoid of any emotion for her now. He's acting completely heartless.
When I decided I wanted to call off the wedding, I called my officiant, TC. He was the first person I told that the wedding was off.
So the first person that Ed told about his wedding being cancelled was his officiant, not his future wife. No, in fact, she wasn't even third or fourth. Ed admitted to his sister that he went home and began calling his friends before he considered Liz. The only reason why Liz knows that the wedding is off isn't because of Ed, no, it's because the officiant sent her a message. So is it any wonder that Liz is angry?
Liz and I have not spoken in person since I called off the wedding, so we're getting ready to meet, and she's probably going to be upset, but I do owe her a face-to-face.
I literally can't believe how Ed's out here trying to look like the good guy. He's humbly saying that he owes Liz a face-to-face. Yeah, Ed, of course you f***ing owe Liz a face-to-face. Are you joking? Does he want to be congratulated? Does he expect brownie points for having a conversation with the woman he was a few days out from marrying? And to make matters worse, Ed then goes on to claim that he never wanted to put Liz in this position. This wasn't his intention, but he just no longer sees a future with Liz.
I want to be planning a wedding, but you can't plan something that you know is going to fail.
Yeah, like I said earlier, how did a switch just flick in Ed's brain like that? Like, he and Liz have had an up and down, incredibly tumultuous relationship since 2021. They've actually broken up and got back together about 15 times in that period, he thinks. He seems to have lost track. So, that being the case, why has he only now, days out from the wedding, decided that he wants to call it off? Now, just to be totally clear, do I agree with him that the wedding should be called off? Yes, it's a horrible relationship, it's toxic, it's never gonna work. But my question is, why has he only now come to this conclusion? What was it about, let's call it the Pastagate situation, that was so bad that Ed just wants to dust his hands of this relationship?
I moved halfway across the country, paid for everything, got us a house, and she has to treat me like in front of my family. Like, it's no man would stand for that.
Oh, fuck off, Ed. Like, he can play the hero all he wants, but we all know the truth. The real reason why he moved here was to be closer to his own family. But that's just it, isn't it? We've found the core issue here. In the privacy of their own home, Liz can yell, but the second she does it in front of an audience, well, that makes it very different. Ed's narcissistic traits don't like being disrespected in front of his family. In his eyes, because there's an audience there, this isn't a petty argument anymore. This is Liz proving herself to be somehow against him. So that's it. He's done with her.
You know, you think you have your whole life ahead of you and you don't. At my age, you realize that life is short and I just can't marry Liz.
Now, for all of Liz's faults, and by no means is she perfect, I do feel sorry for her here. Ed has dragged her to a new state where she has no friends or family. He's cancelled their wedding without telling her. He isn't speaking to her at all. And now he seems intent on turning his own friends and family against her. She's all alone. She has no one to turn to. And Ed's disregard for her is making this whole situation so much harder.
I put all my eggs in one basket moving out here, and this has been the hardest relationship I've ever worked for. It is terrifying to lose someone that I fought so hard to be with.
Liz tells us she's terrified. She doesn't want this relationship to end, she says. Her primary goal is to try and fix things with Ed. So she tries calling him to have a civil conversation. And lo and behold, for the first time in days, Ed actually answers.
Don't you think the boys do you think that's a healthy place to have a conversation? And then you don't care to think about where Riley is gonna go?
Now, make no mistake, it's no coincidence that the first time he shows her any respect at all and picks up her call just so happens to be in front of a camera crew. He's trying his very best to make himself seem innocent in all of this. But as we find out, the truth is Ed hasn't shown her any respect at all. I mean, take this meeting for example. He's sent Liz a text message to arrange this meeting to discuss their cancelled wedding, and he wants to have it at a pub with less than an hour's notice. Like, keep in mind, Liz doesn't have a support system. She doesn't have the time to organise someone to watch her daughter so that she can come and meet Ed. And the pub that Ed has chosen is crowded. It's loud. It's not the ideal place to be having a very important conversation. But does Ed give a shit? Nah.
Liz, you're her mom. You haven't spoke to me in 3 days. I don't know what...
spoke to me in 3 days, and I've been home. All of a sudden, you just text me
Liz,
to meet you.
Liz.
Liz doesn't even sound angry anymore. She sounds exhausted. She sounds broken, having to hear Ed try and change the narrative. It's actually scary how easily it comes to him to say, "You haven't spoken to me in 3 days," as if Liz is the one ignoring him. Now, as Liz tries to figure out an appropriate, kid-friendly place that they can meet up, Ed has no qualms just jumping straight into his problem with her.
Saturday night, you blew up in front of my sister and my family.
Right now, we're trying to just, this conversation
No.
needs to happen, but right now, we're trying to figure out where we're gonna meet to talk.
Yeah, I'll repeat what I said. This is all about the humiliation that Ed felt. Liz's tone here is as if she's speaking to a little child. And from the way that Ed's acting, she is. Like, just compare Liz's clear, concise thoughts to Ed's crazy erraticness, which becomes very clear as the camera zooms into the text message on Ed's phone that Liz sent him after days and days of being ignored by Ed.
I don't care, Liz. We can have this conversation over the phone. You know how I feel. I don't want to move forward with marriage. I already got my deposit back.
"I don't care, Liz," is literally all we need to hear. While Liz seems to be thinking of ways they can maybe salvage what they've built over the years. In Ed's mind, his relationship, their wedding, it's over, and he really doesn't give a f***. In fact, he proceeds to kick Liz while she's down by saying, "I've already got my deposit back," as if that's the most important thing to take away from all of this.
If your mind's made up and you don't want to have a conversation with me, and you literally choose a bar to have a conversation and just expect me to just bring my kid with me, Last minute. This isn't okay.
Ed clearly has no interest in having this conversation. He's only doing this because the camera crew's there and he feels like he needs to throw Liz a bone. He's intentionally done everything he can to make it impossible for Liz to show up. And now he's gonna try and frame the narrative. He's gonna try and throw it all back in her face by trying to make out like he tried, but she was the one that didn't come.
I texted you 2 hours ago. I'll meet you anywhere you want me to meet, but my mind's made up. Liz, my mind's made up. Regardless, my mind is made up, okay?
And finally, after all of that, Liz has had enough. She hangs up the phone. But what makes this so sad is that even after all of this, Liz still hasn't given up hope that they might be able to reconcile.
I'm scared because I don't want this relationship to be over. I put all my eggs in one basket moving out here, and this has been the hardest relationship I've ever worked for.
That's so sad, isn't it? Have some self-respect, Liz. He treats you like shit. Stop running back to him. Thank your lucky stars. He actually did you a favour by cancelling this wedding.